Welcome back, guys. In this lesson, as I promised previously, we are going to chill a bit. So we are going to create a background for our game window. Okay, so to do that, we are going to create a new quad. So right click in the hierarchy, select 3D object and select quad. Awesome. Let's reset its transform like so. And now you can have a glimpse of it just behind the letters. Okay. So let's remove the mesh collider for now because we won't need it. All right. Let's select the quad and focus it in the scene. Okay, let's go back a bit like so. We are going to make it bigger. So let's increase its size by pressing Alt and increasing the size. You can also hold Shift to have some proportional scaling, like so. And yeah, we are pretty good like so. Nice. Is it okay for the iPad? It is. Cool. Let's go back to our iPhone 12 Pro Max. Okay. Let's rename this quad to background. Perfect. Then open the main folder of our project and create a new folder that we are going to call materials. Perfect. In this folder, we are going to create a new material for our background. So let's rename it background, like so. Perfect. So it's currently white, but we are going to create a shader that we are going to apply to this material. So it's going to be something like rectangles scrolling in the background. It's going to be cool. Trust me. All right. So for that, let's create a new shader. Okay. A new shader graph, sorry. URP, and it's going to be an unlit shader graph. Let's call it scrolling rectangles. Perfect. We can already apply this shader to the material by dragging it and dropping it on top of the material. Okay, cool. Let's open this shader by double-clicking on it. Perfect. We are going to double-click on the window to make the shader window a bit bigger. Nice. So basically, I'm going to do a very small lesson on shader graph. It's just because I want to add that sweet effect, you know? And yeah. So here you can select the color of your shader, the color that will be applied on the material. So by default, it's gray. So let's change it to something like blue. Let's save the shader at the top left and double click on the shader just to check if it has changed, and it has actually. Okay, perfect. From now on, we won't open the simulator until we are done with the shader. So let's double click on the shader window again. Perfect. At the bottom left, you can right click and select the quad. We want to render the shader on a quad, like so. Awesome. Can we resize it a bit? I don't think, oh, we can resize the window. Oh, perfect. Nice. Let's keep it right here. Okay, so to start off, we are going to create a new node. This node will be the rectangle node. So just write rect and you should see it. Okay, so we now have a sweet rectangle. You can already drag it and drop it onto the base color, and the quad will now have a rectangle at its center. Okay, so you can control the width of the rectangle along with the height of the rectangle, but we want to control these two values outside of the shader, so in the inspector of the material. So for that, we are going to create a new variable right here. So hit the plus button and create a new vector 2. Call it bound size. Okay, we can drag it, drop it onto the graph like so, and we are going to split it to be able to control the X and Y values separately. So we are going to drag the X value to the width and the Y value to the height. Then in the graph inspector, by default, we want these values to be something like .1 and maybe 1 for the Y value. Okay, perfect. We now have one bound. Okay, cool. So we can color this band now. So let's just diminish this and let's try and color this band. So I'm going to drag these, drop them here. I'm going to create a new property. It's going to be a color property and let's call it band color. Okay, so I can drag it, drop it right here. And by multiplying the color by the rectangle, we can color the rectangle because white in terms of color is 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, so 1 on the red channel, 1 for the green, 1 for the blue, and 1 for the alpha. So we can just drag this node right here, add a multiply node, and multiply the color by the shape, so by the rectangle. Then we can drag this and drop it onto the base color. By default, let's set the base color to blue. Awesome! We have now colored our band. Let's try and add a color for the background because we don't want the background to be black for now. So let's create a new color. Okay, and let's call it background color. Perfect. Let's drag it onto the graph. So for that, we are going to drag the rectangle node output, drop it anywhere, and select the 1 minus node. It's going to invert the colors of the rectangle. Finally, we can multiply this by the background color. Okay, so let's set the color of the background to something a bit darker, like so. Cool. We can drag all of these nodes and drop them maybe around here. Perfect. Let's do something like that. Then we can add these two colors to have a cool effect. So let's grab this one, add it to the background color, and perfect. We can now control our band color like so. So maybe let's set it red and the background color also. Nice. Cool, isn't it? All right. So now we want to multiply the amount of bands we have here. Okay. So we should multiply the amount of rectangles. So to do that in a shader, we are going to split the UV map. So the UV map is quickly, again, a map going from 0, 0 to 1, 1 right here at the top right. And you can control that to specify the tiling and the offset of the UV texture. Okay, so we are going to control this right here. All right. For that, let's create a tiling and offset node like so. And let's drop it onto the rectangle UV. Awesome, it hasn't changed anything for now. But if you increase the X offset right here, you can see that the rectangle is moving. So you can use that to move our rectangle later on. Okay, so let's reset it to 0, like so. If you increase the tiling, you can see that we can actually make the band a bit thinner, but it's also moving on the x-axis, so it's not what we want. So let's reset it to 1. To make the effect I want, I'm gonna drag the UV tiling and offset and split it. So I'm only going to use the X value for now. Okay, so I'm going to grab the X value and multiply it by the amount of band I want. So let's say I want 10 bounds maybe. Then I'm going to apply a modulo operation, which takes the rest of the division. Okay, and now you can see that I have multiple UV maps in a sort. Okay. So let's move this a bit on the x-axis. Perfect. We can grab the y value and create a new vector2 node, drop it in the y value like so. Maybe drop it here. Okay. And let's reassign our x. So here we have just changed the x value of our UVs. So if we drag this and drop it on the rectangle node, you can see that we have now multiple rectangles. Awesome. And you can still control the band size right here. See, you can make it thicker and so on. Okay, cool. We now have a nice effect. Let's try and see how we can move these lines or these bands over time now. To do so, we are going to control the X value of the offset. Okay? So let's do that. Let's use a new vector 2. So vector 2 right here that we are going to plug into the offset. Perfect. And to move that over time, we can use the time node. So let's write time. All right, cool. So let's just try and see what it does if we plug the time node onto the X component. It's moving it's scrolling the bounds. Perfect, that's what we want. But it's actually moving too fast. So let's try and reduce that speed. For that, we are gonna create a new float property and let's call it speed. Let's drag it onto our graph. And we can multiply this speed by the time value. This way we can reduce the scroll speed. So let's drag the out value of our multiply node and drag it and drop it here. Okay, cool. Now we can change the speed to something less than 1. If we were to put 1, it won't change anything, okay? Let's put .1 for instance, or maybe .05. We just want a subtle effect. And yeah, that's pretty cool. We can now save the shader like so. Let's reduce the window. And in the scene, you can see that we are scrolling here, okay? So if you want to update the shader on every frame, you just need to hit the drop down button right here and tick always refresh. Okay, perfect. Let's play a bit with the material now. Okay, so I want the bound color to be something bluish because I like the blue color. Okay. And for the background color, let's select something like so. All right. Let's make the bounds a bit thinner, maybe a bit thicker, sorry. Okay, cool. And let's also reduce the speed. So maybe 0.01. Okay, I would just want a subtle effect. We can also rotate the quad a bit along the z-axis, maybe 30 degrees or something like that, maybe 25. Yeah, 30 degrees is okay. And we can have a nice effect now. Cool. If you want to multiply the amount of bounds, let's go back to the shader, maximize it like so. And you can see that here we've specified 10. So we could specify 20. So let's make a property out of this. So let's make a new property. It's going to be a float property. Let's call it bound amount. All right. Let's drag it, drop it onto the scene, and plug it onto the multiply node. By default, let's set its mode to integer. And by default, let's set the value 10. All right. Let's save this. Diminish. Okay. We can now select the background and increase the amount of bounds. We can add as many as we wish. So yeah, maybe 30 is okay. Maybe reduce the value a bit and the saturation. No, maybe the saturation is okay, but the value just for it to be lighter on the eye. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay, I was just playing a bit with the colors and you can do so actually. You can select the colors that you wish. And yeah, I think we are pretty much done for this lesson. So I told you we were going to chill a bit. So it's just like it's just some graphics improvements. You can do it or you can decide not to. It's your choice. In the next lesson, we are going to keep improving the UI a bit by changing the icons, like for the back button and for the hints buttons too. Okay, so let's do that. See you there.